Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Sacred Partnership Summit, where we're going to talk about divine union and dating for divine union. And I'm so excited, you guys, because I have Alison Armstrong here with me. Hi, Alison.
There.
So thankful and excited that you said yes. I always tell everybody, and if you've been with me for a long time, you know that Alison is the one that is the reason why I have the life I have, the marriage I have, the relationship I have. It's been 14 years, and yeah, I couldn't have done it without Alison. So Alison has been my teacher and mentor for a long, long time. And I'm so grateful she's here today. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more fancy stuff about Alison. So she started exploring human behavior in 1991 with her decision to study men. She decided to study men and she wanted to find out how she was bringing out the worst in them. Isn't that so brave? This is so brave. And hopefully, how to bring out the best. So her success understanding men naturally led to studying women's behavior and making vital connections between the two. So, as her work evolved over the decades, Allison now illuminates human characteristics that precede and express themselves regardless of gender, age, and upbringing. So, human characteristics, regardless of gender, age, and upbringing. She distinguishes normal human instincts that compel both men and women to behave in ways that contradict and undermine our own purposes, goals, values, needs, and relationships. And Allison has a bunch of books also I want to mention. So we'll tell you about that. Besides fulfilling the need to understand why people behave as they do, Allison offers practical partnership-based alternatives, which have helped me and so many of my clients. So through her seminars, books, online programs, and media contributions, she has been giving millions of people access to more fulfilling lives. I'm one of them. Loving relationships, I'm one of them. Stronger families, I'm one of them. And productive organizations, I'm getting there. That's still a doozy for me, Allison. Still learning. Allison is a sought after speaker and thought leader amongst people with the desire to live empowered lives. Her philosophy and approach are referenced and taught by other authors, speakers, business consultants, and therapists. Her live events and over 100 hours of online programs are available at AlisonArmstrong.com, and we'll put the link below so anybody can go and visit Alison. Hello, Alison. And with that, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Amelia. I'm happy to be here with you.
Yes.
Your here is very different than my here. I'm really glad. Here.
Yeah, because I'm in a little tiny town. We don't even have a McDonald's here where I am now.
I'm not sure that's bad, but
No,
yes,
it's not bad. It's good.
I moved from my little tiny town to a city of 16,000 people. Oh my gosh.
That is big from coming from a tiny town.
Is, but I get to live in the woods outside the city, so I'm still a happy country girl.
Yes, I love the woods. I love the woods. I love the woods. Allison, I am going to dive in with you about this
Let's do
man
it.
stuff. I call it divine union. I know you call it partnership. It's when we're in human spirit and we're connected and we're able to co-create. And I want to talk about this because I think it's really important. I think it's where we're heading as a generation. Like we're just building a new earth type thing. Like we're just going somewhere, we're not staying where we were before, where like women couldn't vote and could be nuns or prostitutes or like wives and moms, right? Like now we're moving forward, but part of moving forward is moving together with our men, and they want to support us and they want to co-create with us and they want to bring so many things to us. And I find like women struggle understanding men, connecting with men, receiving from men. And so this is why I brought you on, and I wanted to ask you a bunch of questions about this because it's a conundrum. It's a conundrum. Um,
Awesome.
so
And my passion. I mean, what you're talking about is my
yes,
passion. So let's do it.
yeah, I love it so much. Yeah. Okay. So my first thing is I want to just be very clear to our audience, and our audience knows that when I'm talking about like with men or dating, I'm talking about for marriage. Like I'm not talking about hanging out with men. I'm not talking about like for entertainment with men. I'm talking about like for the purpose of a partnership, like a lifelong partnership. And so I want to ask you, because I'd love your thoughts on why do we want that? Like, what is the point of that kind of partnership? Why is it worth creating? Why is it worth seeking? Why is it worth going through the trenches for? Your thoughts?
Wow. Okay, well, I'm going to start here just because without it, a lot of things can get messed up. Okay. And that is, and you already know this, I think of human beings in terms of that we have two different nervous systems, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. We have the limbic part of the brain. We have the prefrontal cortex. We, of course, have the crown chakra, right? So we have all these different hardwire capacities. And I hear people use the word partnership, but they're not talking about the domain of human spirit. They're talking about, like, I met a bunch of men who are looking for partners, and they're very ambitious, all about legacy. And when I explored what they meant by partner, I was sad to find out it meant someone who would be there'd be their lover and be really fun and maybe raise their children and support them in everything that they wanted to do, all their ambitions, and require very little from them. It was very old paradigm. It was not partnership, where in true partnership, it's not leader follower, right? It's not dominant submissive. It's providing and receiving in this dance. And the providers quickly become receivers because they need something from the receiver in order to provide for them. And so then the receiver becomes the provider, right? So it keeps going. And what's really important in this domain is accountability, because that's where leadership shows up. That's where the building blocks are. Who's accountable for what? So you and I were talking about natural horsemanship, right? Something we share. When I was learning to ride, I was learning to ride English, which I'd never ridden before, from someone in a normal paradigm on very expensive horses. And my trainer literally taught me to watch the horse's feet, that I was accountable for keeping the horse from putting their foot in a dangerous place and breaking their leg. No. And it's one of the things that carries over into human life in a huge way. We keep trying to be accountable for other people's feet. And the only person's feet we can be accountable for are our own. And I recently had this whole new thing about this, Emilia, because Dan and I bought an RV. So 8 feet wide, 11 feet tall, 25.5 feet long. And yeah, it has this powerful diesel engine, and we can rev up really fast, but we drive slower on purpose so everything doesn't shake. It's much safer. We have to take into account wind, right? And it's really funny, Amelia, because my other car is a sports car, right? So so to go from one to the other is really funny.
I thought your other car was a tractor.
Well, that would be my third. Yes.
Your third car.
That would be my third. But I had to learn this business of, like, I am accountable for my vehicle and the safety of its inhabitants. That's what I'm accountable. I'm accountable. We call them, which may sound weird, Hobie, right? So Hobie is the nickname for our RV. I am accountable for Hobie's feet. I am not accountable for all the cars who are lined up behind me, who want to go faster, who want to pass, who want to do everything they want to do. I'm not accountable for them. I'm accountable for holding my space, doing what's safe for us, and wherever possible, help other people be safe where they're willing to let me. But that's my accountability. And so I am very much in the driver's seat, being accountable. Then when Dan's in the driver's seat, and this is a metaphor for life, when Dan's in the driver's seat, being accountable for my safety, for getting me where I want to go, he's making my dreams come true, then I'm accountable for supporting him. I make sure the Kleenex are handy. If his nose is running, it becomes an emergency that distracts him from driving. There's Kleenex right there next to him now, right? I'm accountable
Yay.
for keeping him fed, keeping him hydrated, right? I take on that support, but I'm being accountable about it. And so whether you're being accountable as a provider or being accountable as a receiver, right? They're both in the domain of accountability. And as you know, partnership, true partnership, divine union, you just rattled that off so quickly, where we co-create and blah, 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 blah.
Because I always say it so many times I say it, but yeah.
Well, co-create. Co-create. It is so difficult for human beings to co-create. And because we either think what we want isn't important because we're not as important as the other person, or we think it's my kitchen. This is my kitchen. This is all about me, right? And so that being able to do that exchange, which is one of the things I love about Dan,
That,
is
right? The receiving,
well,
providing thing.
yeah,
That's the co-creating.
that's the co-creating, but it begins with an exchange of, Emilia, if you had it all your way, and what would that provide for you? And let me see, can I give you all your way happily? Sure, I don't have it all my way. I want to give you the bullseye. Awesome. Which is crazy. Dan entrusted me to pick out and purchase our RV. But he entrusted me because he's used to me finding out. So if you had it all your way, what would the RV be able to do? Right? And he trusted me that I would take what really mattered to him into account as I picked out what we picked out. And I mean, he's so happy. And then, I mean, it was a big expense and he fronted all the money. So
And he trusted you to pick the perfect one.
trusted me. And yeah, and he just got to be in it recently. And he's like, wow, you aced this. You totally,
Yay.
yeah, it's wonderful. So the thing I would tell for your people, women who are leaders, who want to be more receptive in romantic relationships, the thing to get clear about is where, like, where do you need to be accountable? Because you're good at it, right? You're really good at it. You're better at it than the other person. And you need to be accountable because then you can get it done the way that you know to get it done. Does that mean you're not going to take them into account? Absolutely, you're going to take them into account. But that's the thing that you want to be accountable for. You know, Dan does his accounting once a year. So I'm accountable for keeping track of all the expenses because we go Dutch on most things. That's one of our deals. Dutch is the default. We speak up if we're going to treat the other person. So I'm the one who does the accounting. I'm the one that tracks everything, right? And it's funny because, as you know, my late husband was an accountant.
Yeah.
But he was a corporate accountant. And he really sucked at keeping track of the bills and getting them paid. And I thought, he's an accountant. He should be in charge. And then the lights were going out. The TVs are, the phones were being turned off. Like,
oh my goodness.
Honey. So beware of that a title means something, a degree means something. Who's really good at it, right? And what do you need to be accountable for? And even what we would call power more, right? You have more ability in that area. And so you want to be the provider who is admired, who is supported, who is appreciated. And you need the person who's going to be your partner in life to recognize and acknowledge you're awesome at that. You're awesome at that. This is the thing that matters to me most. How can I support you? And then, of course, the other side of it, in a partner, what do you want them to be the awesome one at? Like, if you're the most awesome at that, you're going to lose respect for them. Like, no, I want to admire a man for, right? I want to admire my partner for, and look at ways that them being strong, you need, and that you're not going to compete with them for that. You're going to do your job as a receiver and speak up. This is what matters to me. This is what I have to have. Even these are my deal breakers. Without this, it's going to fall apart. And so that clarity, where do you want to provide and be admired? Where do you want to receive and get to be the one who admires and appreciates? Which side of appreciation and admiration do you want to be on? And honestly, we both need both. Men can't admire. Sorry, let me put it this way, because you talked about marriage, whether it's legal or not.
Right.
Right.
The union.
I'm going to talk about a long-term commitment to building life together, which Dan and I are doing without marriage. So, it's just not right for this point in life. So in that long-term commitment, now I forget what I was going to say.
Receiver.
In that long-term commitment, so a man, instinctually, a man is looking for the most capable, most competent woman that, and this is very important because a lot of women leaders get accused of being intimidating, and this is the heart of intimidation. The most capable, competent partner that they believe they can attract and keep. So they're looking for someone that they admire, but they know if she doesn't admire him, he won't be able to keep her. It'll bomb.
No.
He won't be able to keep her. So he's looking for her being capable, and that she sees him as capable, and that she considers herself better off with him than without him. And he sees himself as better off with her than without her. It's gotta be both.
Yes.
And that's why the clarity is so important. And if you want to send people somewhere, Emilia, that's directly related to this, it's called Thrive Your Life.
Okay.
I don't know if you watched it.
No, I haven't.
It's like $35. It's an hour and maybe 20 minutes, a half an hour, but it's so to the point of the importance of clarity, how to use your imagination, distinct from hallucinations. Distinguish your hallucinations. So I distinguish different types of hallucinations, and then use your imagination, because they both deal with what isn't real, right? But imagination may be what isn't real yet. You're creating it, right?
The creating, yeah.
Yes. So use your imagination to create clarity, and even use your imagination to test your degree of clarity to see if you're ready to open your mouth yet. And yes, you actually test it. Can I picture or feel into? Can I see it? Can I hear it clearly enough to now tell someone? And if your imagination is showing you're not clear enough yet, then you go back to work with your imagination to get clearer, and then you open your mouth, and there's all these ways to like check and make sure you're going to be contributing to clarity, to accomplishment, to certainty in the good way, confidence, let's say confidence instead of certainty. Yeah, and that's our work to do for men and women. That's our work to do before we go looking, before we go fishing, before we search.
Yeah, and when you say clear,
Yeah.
can you connect the clear with the accountability? Because
Mhm.
is it clarity about what we want to be accountable for and what we want the other person to be accountable for?
It's clarity about that. It's clarity about your deal breakers, which can be one of the things that's really important is, and I've been spending a lot of time on this in the last year or so, and that is that I assert that for a relationship of any kind, romantic, family, work related, for it to be fulfilling, like fill you up, it isn't just what you get from it. It's what you give to it, what you get to give to it, what you have to give to it, and how well that's received, how well that's valued, how well that's appreciated. So deal breakers can be, what do you need to give? What do you need to get? What do you need to get to keep being happy giving what you're giving? What won't you live with? What won't you live without? And overarching is this idea of better off. You get much into your 30s, and especially later in 30s and 40s, and the more freed up we are from childbearing, we know we can be in a relationship that we are better off alone. That it brings out the worst in us. It's taking more than it's giving. We're literally better off alone. So deal breakers are in the neighborhood of, I am better off without a person if they're not all these things, if they don't generate these ways of being, and if they don't behave in the important parts of life to me in these ways, I'm better off without them. Because it's going to deplete me. It's going to bring out the worst in me. It's not going to be fulfilling. I'm going to have an achy breaky heart most of the time. These are all things for men and women to get clear about. And there's other things on our website. Dating with Distinctions is one of them. These are all things I recorded in the last couple years, because after Greg died, I had to relearn everything. Right? I mean, we've been together almost 30 years, all but 9 months of which were after I started studying men. Right? I was studying men for 9 months when he and I got together. So he was my lab rat most of that time. He was not my student. It's very interesting. My boyfriend he's the student of the other Alison Armstrong, the one on all the recorded videos. But I didn't know how much I needed to give to Greg that he didn't let me, or that he took for granted instead of appreciating it, and how much that hurt. I mean, even though we were literally had fallen in love again and again and again until the moments before he died, we had recreated being in love after another breakdown. But there are just things I never got to give, and I didn't know how much I needed to until I met someone who let me, and who receives beautifully, including that I drive. We share the driving. The only time I got to share the driving with Greg was the time I refused to get in the vehicle because I knew he was too tired. Nope. You said we could swap out now. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. Get in. I'm horses. I'm trained to buy 1,000+ pound beings that if you're not clear, if you don't say what you mean and mean what you say and follow it up 100% of the time, you create a mess. Horsemanship and human relationships are so alike. Maybe exactly.
Yeah. I so get you on that one because I know one of the things I really wanted to get to provide in my union was cooking. Like I lived with roommates. Everybody loved my cooking. Everybody was like, wow, you make amazing Indian food because I love Indian food. I'd learn like all these new ways I create. And my hubby's very like, he wants this, and he wants this. And that's it. And let's like, if Amelia cooks it, it's not going to be okay because she's going to get creative. She's going to throw spices in there, you know?
Yeah.
So it's definitely been something that I'm missing, but like I decided it wasn't more important than like getting to have a family and getting to have a daughter and getting to be married to this man that I respect and admire in so many other
Yeah.
ways. And now I just cook for my friends. Like I'll just make a soup for myself and then I'll sneak my friends like a Tupperware and they'll love it. They'll be like, oh, this is the best soup, you
Yeah.
know, but I get you. It's things like that. Cause yeah, I do wish once in a while, I'm like, I wish I could just share this nice stew I made. Like,
Yes.
so I think that's what you're speaking to, right? Like now you're getting to share things that it's really great to get to share.
Yeah, I mean, they're turning red right now because I just thought of them. I have healing hands, right? The Japanese call it sakura. Tons of chi energy coming out of my hands. Got totally amplified after Greg died. Well, if I reached out to touch Greg, there would be no reaction. Greg didn't really inhabit his body. He didn't like his body. It was too clunky and heavy for him. So I like cars and motorcycles, right? But I would reach out and there'd be no reaction, like a kind of like a cat who doesn't purr, except for he didn't have soft skin. Right? So I didn't touch him much. And I didn't realize how much I need to touch
Mm.
until I just reach out and put a hand on Dan's shoulder and he goes, oh.
Ah.
Yes, and I need it. I I mean, we had literally just met, and I couldn't. I was sitting in the back seat of his new car. He's learning how to use his new car, and I couldn't stop touching him. I'm petting the back of his neck. We'd had 2 weeks of conversations in text and one hug, and I can't.
And then neck petting was next.
I couldn't not,
I
and he just soaks it
he
up. He's
loved
so
it.
grateful, and I had no idea how much I needed to do that.
Aw,
I didn't
wow.
know, and then I never cared about baking, but I love to bake for Dan, and he's so grateful, and all the things I can make grain free. Oh yeah, yeah.
I
So
want some. I
but
want some.
there's something else you said. There's something else you said before we started. Can I go there just to round
Yes.
this out?
Yeah.
So, I mean, on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, there's a recording I did for Instagram Live called When Does Gender Matter? And because it does matter, it obviously it matters in terms of people's prejudices and discrimination, both
Mhm.
for and against either gender, but it matters because of gender hormones.
Yes.
It's something we're born with, and then there's things we can do about it. But I just want to distinguish for people who have found life, which the Queen's Code, Claudia, talks about femininity and masculinity. And I think of them as forms of power
Mhm.
and and types of accountability.
Mm.
Yeah. So let me go to the accountability one first because we've been talking about it.
Yes, because I was gonna ask, let's talk more about accountability. I wasn't sure I was really getting the nitty-gritty of that.
Well, if you decide to do extraordinary choices, it's the first topic and you will
Okay.
get everything about it. But accountability is accountability.
Yes. Okay. Accountability.
Accountability, the things we're being accountable for, if someone holds us to account for doing it when we said we would, we're glad they did. That feels like respect
Mm-hmm.
because we relate to ourselves as accountable. So it's a it's a critical distinction, accountability. And in this domain of masculine and feminine, and Leslie Rice was the one who generated this. I don't know if you ever got to meet Leslie. We still work together. She's scheduled.
Yes, I
Leslie
did
Thompson,
meet her
right? Yeah, she's been
years
married.
ago, like at least 10 years ago, but yes, I have
Yeah,
met her.
and she's been married for 10 years now. She's Leslie Thompson. And she came up with the term accountable feminine. And that
Mm.
account, which then begged accountable masculine, which we both can be. So we propose that the accountable feminine is being accountable for ways of being
Mm.
accountable for ways of being, including having a vision, like the vision you have of your family, right? Being visionary, and anything else we choose to be accountable for. Like for me, being empowering. That
Mm.
that that if you're around me, you're gonna end up more able. You're gonna be more able to something, whether it's more able to smile, more able to kick ass, more able to fulfill your dreams, more able to understand men. You're gonna be more able. I like the the most shame in my life has been if I left somebody diminished, less
Mm-hmm.
able in any way, right? I'm accountable for that, including I feel shame when I fail. That's a sign of accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So where we would say the feminine is accountable for ways of being, masculine accountability, which of course women can be, but beware because it spends testosterone and men have between 15 to 30 times more testosterone. The accountable masculine is being accountable for results.
Right.
So a result could be safety. A result could be the building of something. A result could be the providing of something other than equality. So it's things versus being, if that makes sense. And then in terms of power, masculine and feminine forms of power, the easiest way to relate to them, and you've heard me talk about this before, Emilia, has to do with our our genitalia. The masculine forms of power masculine forms of power are intrusive. Make way. Coming through. It's forceful. It's about causing something by what it's doing, the action it's taking. It's like they show up.
Allison, I didn't know we were gonna do this.
Oh my. Whereas feminine forms of power are like our bodies. Feminine forms of power are unoccupied spaces. So, for example, compassion is an unoccupied space where when we're being compassionate, our attention is on the other person and we're a space for them, for their expression, right? For who they are. And the result is we end up understanding them, right? And we're more effective with them. So patience is an unoccupied time space. It's also an unoccupied mental and emotional space. It's a way of being unoccupied, and it's stunning in the effects. Men, young people, everybody benefits by someone
And
who's
you tell me this, the form follows function. This is that thing, right? The form follows function is what you're talking about here.
Well, I'm always talking about form follows function, but in this case, you got to tell me what you mean by asking me that connection. Form follows
Well,
function.
the
Form.
masculine form is penetrative, and the feminine form is receptive.
Receptive and inclusive.
Form
But,
follows function.
well, yes, that's fine.
Okay.
And how come women can produce babies in their bodies is because we literally have an unoccupied space. It's called a uterus. This is why women have babies and men do not. It's a garden where a baby can grow. So yes, in terms of biological function, but these are also ways of being. And being masculine is not a bad thing in a woman, and it's not an unattractive thing in a woman in terms of the most competent, capable partner I can attract and keep. Feminine ways of being, that spaciousness, is attractive to a man in a romantic sense, because as they say, I'm not looking for someone like me.
Me.
They're looking for someone who's not like them, which that unoccupied space is not like them. Although, and this is true, and there's nothing wrong with it, there are men who are better at being accountable for unoccupied spaces, and they'll be attracted to kick-ass women, and they can make fabulous partnerships. There's no right or wrong here about who's generating it.
No.
And often what'll happen, right, as we sync up and get to know each other better, we can be surprised. I mean, Dan's superpower, which I didn't even think of as a power until I met him and witnessed it and how much it's affected me. His superpower is acceptance. That is an unoccupied space. And he generates offering that to all people. That's one of his principles, to offer acceptance to all people. There's more in that list, right? But man, it's so powerful, and it's a way of being, and it's a space he holds. And you know, when I first met him, I thought of him as Mr. Rough and Ready. This is a jock. He's Mr. Rough and Ready. He has vehicles, right? He has a plow truck and a Jeep and a motorcycle and snowmobiles. And so he has like all this masculinity, right? He's an athlete. He was a Division I hockey player on scholarship in college. And I mean, but brutal defenseman who'd score goals, right? But then he has this whole other side. He has this whole other part that is just glorious. And I think we need to allow for this complexity in humans and find out, like, as a woman, where do we want to be the ass kicker? And where do we want to be a space holder? And where do we need them to be the ass kicker? And where do they want to be a space holder for us? Because they do. And taking the time, and this is probably be one of the things I would leave people with. In my experience now, all these years working with singles and in our Smart Single Intensive, the place where people mess up, the place where people doom themselves is what we think is a commitment, we do too quickly. We attach too quickly. We give up our right to veto too quickly. We're like, oh, I love you so much. Let's get married and live happily ever after. Okay, well, back that up. I love you so much. Let's spend potentially years getting to know each other and make sure that then we could live happily ever after. That we have the skills to keep generating happy out of the ashes, out of the blow-ups, out of the highs and the lows. And I'm always like, okay, well, you know, we're thinking about getting engaged. And I actually told this to my new son-in-law to be when he called for my blessing, not my permission, which I said, you're not asking my permission. He goes, no. Would you do this anyway without my permission? He said, yes. I say, good for you.
You're like, good for you.
Yeah.
Like,
But
what a man.
yeah, but I was telling him why I had my blessing. And one of them was because he has seen the worst my daughter can do. He has seen her very worst. She has seen his very worst. And they made it through. And they didn't lose respect for each other. Maybe temporarily, but they regained it in the resolution. So if you haven't shown someone your worst, don't commit. Don't commit, because there's no way you're going to spend a lifetime avoiding being your worst. We're going to be tired enough. We're going to be hurt enough. We're going to feel disrespected enough. We're going to be that person. So then what? Then what? So if you haven't seen each other's worst, if you haven't even trusted the other person with your worst, if you haven't learned how to heal and restore each other, please don't commit. Life is not easy. And it makes it harder to do it with someone who isn't a good fit.
Oh, yeah, definitely harder.
Yeah.
Definitely harder. Okay. And so I just want to ask you one last thing. So we
Okay.
want to be accountable. And it's like, what also what I'm hearing you say, like, we're not, like, this is not anywhere, like, nobody's going to teach it. Like, this is not on TV. Like, this is a personal journey.
Rarely,
Like, we need
rarely.
to ask these questions. We, this is one reason why I had a mentor. I had you, I had your courses, right?
You still do.
This isn't we need this because it's not, nobody pays, marketing dollars like to like put it on TV a million times, right? But what's your thoughts on that? Like, why do we need this? Like, why doesn't it just happen?
Because men and women have opposing instincts. They're literally in opposition. What most women do to feel safe disrupts what almost all men do to feel secure.
Yeah.
We literally, and even when we're upset, when a man is upset, he wants to be left alone to calm his nervous system, wrap his head around it, analyze the problem, come back with something that seems worth doing. So when a woman is upset, a man leaves her alone.
Yeah. Not
Thinking
good.
she wants the same thing. Not good. You just left her potentially with a monster that she needs you to save her from. So when a woman is upset, yes, we often need to be touched in certain ways and not at all maybe, but we're very sensitive to touch, and we can be consoled. We may need a hug. We need to be heard. We need to be heard in the middle of the in order just to get it out so we can look at it, can calm down, we need to do that first, right? And so a man leaving us alone, and if we don't have someone we can go to outflow, to empty the basket with, we're going to get in trouble. And when he's upset, we're going to pet him. We're going to try to soothe him, not knowing that the epinephrine in his skin, because of the upset, has made his skin uber sensitive, and doing that feels like you're burning him, which is a way we're similar. If a woman's feelings are hurt bad enough and she's now being possessed by the rage monster, you touch her, it feels like a branding iron. And it can make everything worse. And often even, like, I remember once the bones on our ankles were touching, Greg and I couldn't calm down. I just kept getting more and more furious because of that touch. And I moved away, and he came after. No, don't touch me. Oh, okay. Because he thought I needed it all the time. All these things, we have opposing instincts, we have opposing reactions, and we're unconscious. We have to bring all of this to the level of awareness.
Yeah.
That's when we can choose something different. But then we need someone to teach us the choices.
Yes.
Like Extraordinary Choices, 14 of them. These are the opposite of what a human instinct will do.
Will do.
And
Beautiful.
clarity and accountability, truly chosen, accountability at choice, enough clarity. That's the opposite of what we want to do. We want to conceal anything that can be used against us. And we're inconsistent, and we don't contribute to clarity.
Yeah. And this is why dating is so hard, everybody that's here, because all these things get triggered and come up in dating, and why it is important to have a way to not be in that state.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful in that journey.
Yeah, one of the things you might do, Emilia, so last year I recorded Dating with Distinctions. It's almost 10 hours altogether. And it starts with, are you dating in the dark? And then the myths of progression, how a relationship should progress before bodies collide, as in nakedness, simple sorting. And then the last one is making dating apps work for you. And it can bring all of this together for people and just, oh, oh, do this and this instead of that and that. And yeah, I had to put it all in one place. It's $95 for the whole package. I mean, that's the beauty of the internet. We can be so much more effective and affordable and rewindable than when we had live workshops.
Yes. Amazing. Amazing. And yeah, we can put those links below. Alison, thank you so much. What a way to dive deep. I'm so happy you came. I'm so happy we went this deep. I feel like this is, I think I'm going to need to re-listen to this conversation. But yeah, it's so good to have you and so fun to see you again. And thank you so, so much for your wisdom and your heart and your generosity. And I'm just so thankful that you were able to join us.
You are very welcome. And keep doing you. What you're doing matters.
Thank you.
Keep doing it.